It is not every day that an Oscar-winning director makes a TV show, so you can imagine that expectations are high. Alfonso Cuarón's new show, Disclaimer, just dropped. It is just one of the big pop culture stories of the week. We have a lot to talk about today. The group chat is here. Let's go. I'm Alameen Abdul-Mahmoud. This is Commotion. Look, so typically this is a day where we look at all the big stories of the week. There's a new Ali Wong special that I want to get to, for example. The Rust movie finally came out. But I'm just really just bursting to talk about this new Apple TV show. It is called Disclaimer. It stars Cate Blanchett. Here's a bit of the trailer.
All these years, you have concealed parts of yourself from the world. You keep everyone in the dark to maintain a balance. And you think you have succeeded. Until now.
That is a bit of the trailer for the new Apple TV Plus series Disclaimer. The first 2 episodes dropped today. Cassie Cow is here, Rachel Ho is here, and Rad Simon Pillay is also here. Cassie and Rachel and Rad, welcome to the show, y'all. How's it going?
Hello.
Hello. A ruckus bunch. I love to see it. Okay. Rad, I'm going to start with you, pal. Look, you're passing by and you see an old friend and they go, man, what are you watching? And you say, Alfonso Cuarón made a new television show. And they say, describe it for me. What does it feel like to watch the show? What is Disclaimer about?
I mean, I think in some ways this is Alfonso Cuarón kind of taking on cancel culture because what he's dealing with is the story of a celebrated journalist who is played by Cate Blanchett. Her name is Catherine. And she receives a book and is actually being tormented by the book because as she reads the book, she starts thinking, oh, I bet you think this book is about you. You know, it's one of those things where it's
I love a rat singing in the morning. That's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, but basically she realizes this character in the book who everyone who reads it seems to despise is actually is meant to be her. And so she's trying to put a lid on this book while there are people like characters played by Kevin Kline who are making sure everyone sees this book. And as you're trying to figure out what is exactly going on here, what is this book revealing, she the book, there's a story within a story element here that you're just trying to piece together the puzzle and figure out what went on in the past.
Okay, Alfonso Cuarón making a television show, that's a very interesting arrival point for me, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Cassie, there's been 2 episodes that have dropped so far. How are you feeling about Disclaimer so far?
I think I'm going to have a controversial opinion, but I hated it. I thought it was awful.
You hated it and thought it was awful. Go in. Let's go.
First of all, I thought it was so funny in a way that he did not mean for it to be funny.
Rachel is scandalized, by the way. Like, Rachel's jaw is on the floor.
Listen, I'm right. It's so pretentious. They are just white people who cannot finish their sentences without punctuating with darling. That took up like an extra 10 minutes of that episode. They could have easily edited out. Everyone lives in a house with no walls, only windows. That was an aesthetic that I think was really new when Gone Girl came out. But now it's like, come on, people who are
it's
so
a
obsessed
metaphor,
about their
Cassie.
privacy, they want walls. There's a really cute cat in it, which did keep my attention.
Yeah.
Kevin Kline is such a villain. And last week I was here and I recommended at the end of the episode the new season of Bob's Burgers. If you want to see Kevin Kline be like a cartoonish, maniacal villain, I would recommend tuning into Bob's Burgers where he plays Mr. Fischoeder, the villainous
over Alfonso Cuarón's Disclaimer. Cassie?
I think so. I think that's his best work.
I am shocked. Rad is shocked. And also...
I'm not, actually.
Okay.
I'm actually on board with Cassie when it comes to...
Good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Cassie
real
and Rad...
critics agree with me.
Get in the corner. Rachel, it's your turn to go. Why were you so surprised by Cassie's reaction?
I think it's a great show. Like, it's so interesting to see. I will say the beginning, like the first couple episodes, you do kind of, it's one of those shows you have to be like, stick with it, which I feel like you shouldn't have to say about TV shows. But I really enjoyed it though. Like, I'm just kind of watching all the episodes in succession.
Yeah.
It's a really, really intriguing premise. And there's a mystery in there that you're just kind of like, what is going on? But it's compelling enough that you're sticking with it and being like, I want to know what's going on, not I don't care what's going on kind of thing.
Yeah.
I will agree. Yeah, it is kind of pretentious white people stuff, but like that can be fun too,
Thank
though.
you.
There's nothing wrong with pretentious white people stuff.
Can you tell me about the performances? Because you got Cate Blanchett, you got Sacha Baron
Mhm.
Cohen, you got Kevin Kline. What's a performance that's standing out for you, Rachel?
So someone that was a bit unfamiliar to me, not a bit, completely unfamiliar to me before I tuned in was Layla George, who's playing the young Catherine. I think she is so great. She's really captivating. She's really magnetic. She's kind of alluring as well. Like I feel like she completely understood what she needed to do for this character. She absolutely delivered on it. But you know, the two big headliners, you got Cate Blanchett, you have Kevin Kline. I do think that they're the reason to watch the series because I think both of them are absolutely tremendous. You know, Cate Blanchett in particular, she has to like vacillate between a broken woman and then a woman who has quite a bit of strength with her. Like she's she's a self-made woman. She's this and that, but she's also someone who's been harboring a really dark secret for a very, very long time. And I think that she plays that balance really, really well. And then Kevin Kline, look, I agree. Bob Burger, he's great in Bob's Burger. Like Kevin Kline's amazing. He's probably one of the better character actors out there right now, I think. And the fact that he goes like sinister vibes to a grieving father to a heartbroken, you know, I don't want to ruin it, but like a heartbroken person. Let's just say it that way.
You did great. You did great. Not spoiling it there.
You.
Yeah.
I think he does like it. They're both of those roles are like they have so many different dimensions to them, and it takes actors of their quality, I think, to deliver on that. Then you have Sacha Baron Cohen, not exactly of the same caliber, and I feel like it really is emphasized in this when you see him up against Blanchett
Cate
and
Blanchett,
Kline. He's just not great, is he? He's not a great dramatic actor. I think he has a niche and he does that niche very well, but it's not necessarily translating into actual dramatic work. I feel like he's just kind of doing an impression of an actor who knows what they're doing. And that's kind of Sacha Baron Cohen.
I think that makes sense to me in terms of trying to imagine him in this dimension. I've seen the first episode, not the first two, so you guys are like a little bit ahead of me. Rad, the headline here with the show has been that the idea that Alfonso Cuarón, one of our great auteurs, is sort of delving into television. This is the person who gave us Children of Men, who gave us Roma, who gave us Gravity, who has won a boatload of Oscars. And then you get to this. What do you make of his approach to making a show like Disclaimer?
Well, I mean, and first of all, I'll say it's because of Alfonso Cuarón that I stuck past 2 episodes of this. I mean, that's why, like, it was literally I would have bailed on this show if it wasn't for this. And so I agree. This show kicks in. It really does kick in midway through, and that's when things started falling into pieces. And ultimately, the series does have kind of the best of Cuarón as well as some of the worst of him in terms of like kind of over the top sentimentality and stuff. But what I was really taken by is actually how this show, he's kind of finding new ways into themes that he's been exploring throughout his entire career. And you could go all the way back to Y Tu Mama Tambien, which was kind of his breakout hit. And there's a lot of that stuff resurfacing here, because if you look at Y Tu Mama Tambien, this is a 2001 raunchy coming of age story that was also national allegory for Mexico. And in this story about a threesome.
Oh, I may be losing you a little bit there, Rad. So while I'm losing Rad, can I go to Cassie and just say, I'm so sorry to put you on the spot, but say, are you going to finish the show? Like, is this a show that you're going to actually like continue watching? And Rad may come back at any moment, but for now we seem to have like lost Rad. But are you going to watch it at all based on everything that Rad just said?
I mean, there's so much TV out there. There's so much TV out there. I don't have another 5 hours for this show. I'll Wikipedia what happens at the end. I think, first of all, I do agree that the actors are great. Cate Blanchett's great. I mean, I also really love Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
I think he has too many Oscars. Like, I feel like he's now at a point where he's like, oh, I don't need to make people like the movie. They already know I've got Oscars. We should confiscate a couple of them before he makes another show, But otherwise, like, the actors are great. And I would say we really need that caliber of acting to make it through a story this wild.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But no, I'm good. There's literally so much good TV out there. Like, I think it's fine.
Okay, Rachel, I'll give you the last word. I think we have Rad back, maybe, but Rad also was making this great point about the idea that like this sort of is the thing that Alfonso Cuarón's career has kind of been leading up to make. I'm interested in that argument. That's why I'm gonna continue watching the show. But are you hooked, or did you finish it already, Rachel?
I haven't finished it. No, I'm on
Okay.
episode five, about to hit episode 5, so I'm coming.
5 of
I'm
7.
coming to the end game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I'm absolutely hooked. I feel like it is. There's a mystery in there that I'm really interested to see play out. I've heard a lot of people say what Rad's saying about Kiran of the kind of the feminist outlook on it. So I'm really kind of curious how that plays out and how that pans out and how this also fits into his career. But Cassie, I'll tell you, this is based on a book, so you could just read the book, and that
No,
that might be better for you.
I Googled the end of it,
Oh,
and
did
I'll
you?
say, I saw that crying scene with Cate Blanchett, and she does such an amazing job,
She's
like
so good.
really emoting. And it made me so mad. I was like, there's no way The Secret's going to be as good as that. You're crying way too much to try to sell it to me.
Amazing.
I'm on board.
Amazing.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish watching the show. I regret to inform all of you. Okay, Rad, are you back? Do we have you back?
I think I'm back. I hope I'm back.
You're
like,
back. You're back. But we don't have any more time to talk about disclaimer. So
Well,
forget it. We got to move on to our next topic. And our next topic is the new Netflix special Ali Wong just put out. It's called Single Lady. Here's a clip.
I really do believe that for a woman, 40 is the golden age. To get divorced. It is perfect.
That is just a moment from Ali Wong's new special, Single Lady. It is inspired by her real life adventures after her divorce from her husband. Cassie, we got to talk about this. Ali Wong is known for like really raw, sort of in-your-face comedic style. How was she in this new special? How'd you feel about it?
I liked it. I
Okay.
really liked it. This is her 4th special, and I think her first one, Baby Cobra, was like it's now like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight to everybody how friggin' hard it is to maintain a level of consistency across specials across this much time. Also, how hard it is to write good stand-up when you're successful and rich and you absolutely don't need to do it anymore. And I think I'm like not even successful, but I do a couple episodes of this show and I'm like, I don't need to write stand-up for 6 months, you know? But I think she's really excellent, and the level of consistency she delivers. Like, she doesn't pull any crap on her audiences. She doesn't bring out a notebook. She doesn't like go off the rails. She delivers what you paid your ticket for, and I really appreciate that.
How did you feel about her vulnerability? Because like that's something that I think we take for granted with Ali Wong is like she's gonna go to the vulnerable place. Like the jokes are like raunchy and dirty, and then there's a turn. There's a turn in every Ali Wong joke, and then she sort of like turns it inwards, and like that's her brilliance. Did you feel like she got to a vulnerable place in the special?
So I would say this is definitely not her most vulnerable special,
Okay.
but I also understand it. Like, I think that Ali Wong, first of all, I think of her as maybe the dirtiest comic that I can even think of. And she like holds it back for her Netflix specials. Like, she's given us like the most PG stuff that she has in her joke book.
Yeah.
And in this special, like, I don't know, I thought the one before, Don Juan, was so dirty. And I was thinking that she had garnered enough like trust with her audiences to go even dirtier, and I was a little disappointed that it didn't go dirtier. It didn't go more vulnerable. She didn't talk shit about her husband. That was, I was waiting for that, you know. But at the same time, I really respect Ali Wong for being such a huge star, so successful, facing so much pressure from media and fans, and she holds her boundaries. Like, she's like, if I'm not going to talk about it, we're just not going to talk about it. And I think that's really a really powerful message.
Okay, I just want to play another moment from the Ali Wong special. Let's hear it.
40 is a great time to get divorced. The age range of who I could date is huge. It'll never be this huge again. I could go as low as 25, and then I could go as high as 55. If you're 55, I got questions for you, like, can you go on a brisk walk? Can you digest red meat without getting a swollen toe the next day? Can you? ¿Es posible?
Rachel, you are not a fan of Ali Wong's brand of comedy. I want to talk about this. That said, what did you make of the themes and the issues that she's kind of trying to tackle in the special?
So, I want to clarify. I do want Ali Wong to be incredibly successful, and I'm so happy for her and everything that she's achieved, because before her, there wasn't really many people who look like me that were up on like a stand-up stage doing what she was doing to the level that she was doing it at.
A lovely caveat, but Rachel, I want you to go in. You don't need the disclaimer. Get in there.
I mean, like I want her to be successful. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's important for us to kind of support one
Yeah.
another within these like smaller communities. But I feel like she's like closer to being a shock jock than to anything else. Like she says things to get a rise out of people. And to me, that's not necessarily clever comedy. It's not
Mm.
necessarily intelligent comedy. It's just saying the thing that people don't expect you to say, like
Mm.
playing against type. And that I feel like that has kind of been her thing. And it doesn't feel all that authentic to me
Mm.
personally. I do like though the themes that she talks about in this one. I think it's interesting. I mean, the idea of being 40 and being divorced and being a single mom and trying to date again and the openness which she shares her journey, I think is
Mhm.
pretty cool. And I like that, you know, we all know that who she's dating right now. And so I kind of understand why maybe she's not going full throttle into it because he is a fairly well-known individual himself. But I do
I was
think,
like, do we
yeah,
all know that? I mean, I don't know if I know
We
that, but
do,
Bill
and he
Hader?
could take
oh,
and he could take a joke.
Bill
he
Hader could take
can.
a
He
joke. That's true.
absolutely
Okay.
could take a
Yes.
joke. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I feel like the fact that she doesn't kind of just shows there's a respect there, right? There's a
Yeah.
respect
Yeah,
between the two
I
of them
agree.
to not do it. And I don't know. I respect her more than I like her, and I think the same could be said about the special. I respect it, but it's not necessarily something that I was like laughing myself through the whole time. I just kind of was like, yeah, it's funny. That's a funny joke. That's kind of what I did when I was watching it. I went, that's funny.
Like Cassie with disclaimer. Like, all right.
Yeah, it
All
was
right.
kind of like that.
If we must endure this. Okay, Rad, okay, you tell me, as a lone man on this panel, how'd you feel watching this special?
As the lone man with a faulty internet connection, please don't fail me now.
I won't.
It's interesting because like I know I was amused by it. I appreciated this take on someone my age exploring the dating world and whatnot. I also kind of to the point what Cassie was talking about in terms of the pressures of her to respond. I did come out of it feeling like it was kind of slight. Like, don't you have a lot of things going on around you that you could discuss? I mean, I specifically remember like the controversy around Beef and them casting this supporting actor who had to answer for these jokes he made about sexual assault in the past, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that has been addressed and stuff. But
And
but
she
I
was
came
really
in with-
lauded for that performance. Like that
Exactly,
beat performance was
yeah.
like, was a really big deal. But yes.
Exactly, and then just contributed to that show altogether. So,
Yeah.
I realized though, like that's the thing is like I'm walking away from it. It's like I'm projecting a lot of like baggage onto this comedian who, and we tend to do that with marginalized talents, right? With people from minority talents, we expect them to speak to the culture at large. We expect them to speak and to all the different things that they need to address. And I realized it's like, you know what, like I kind of actually appreciate that she did like I think to Cassie's point that she did none of that. She kind of found a safe space in her. She found a safe space in her sex life, and I think that's commendable.
Okay.
And I really want to say I think it's a really good example to set for comedians to say that they can sell out a show, they could create a really high quality, funny special without minding their personal traumas and their controversies, and they can still make an hour that's going to make you laugh.
I'm on board with all of this. I am going to watch it, and then Cassie, I'll get back to you. But I have a feeling that we are going to fall on maybe the same side of this coin as opposed to the disclaimer coin, because boy, I'm all in on that show, and I've not let that go yet. Okay, we got to switch gears, but if people want to watch that special, Ali Wong, Single Lady, is on Netflix right now. Okay, we got to talk about Rust. It's a movie that just came out. It is a Western. I think people remember Rust for making headlines a few years back because of the tragic death of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins. She was on set with Alec Baldwin when he was rehearsing a scene and then fired a gun that killed her. I think people remember that Baldwin was charged with involuntary manslaughter. That case was eventually dismissed. The armorer who loaded the gun, she was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. But now there's like a whole new controversy surrounding Rust. Maybe Cassie can bring us up to speed on this. Why is the movie making headlines again?
So I guess this movie just premiered at this international film festival, and a lot of really big directors actually are coming out and saying it's like distasteful to be screening a movie that I guess I also read somewhere that the
Helena
cinematographer
Hutchins,
who
yeah.
was shot didn't want to have submitted this movie to the festival in the early stages of production. So I don't know about that, but and then they're just saying that it's disrespectful and distasteful to be capitalizing on the movie that was shot like with improper rules in place that ended up with her death, and to have them profit from it. And also I think that there were some text messages that leaked about the filmmakers making not nice comments on a WeChat group. So
Oh, so a whole bunch of controversies. Rachel, can we just talk a little bit about this? Like, what do we know about with the family and the estate of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins and how they've responded to all of this?
Sure. I think that's probably the most interesting part of this whole thing. So we don't have an official statement by the Hutchins family as of right now, but the cinematographer who did finish the film for Helena, named Bianca Klein, she did an interview with People magazine, and she says that the family is really excited to see the film, that her mom in particular was or continues to be a massive supporter of Helena and her work, and would love to see, this film get released. And because she thinks that Helena would have liked it that way, and it's interesting though to me, because I think it's worthwhile to point out as well that as part of the settlement that happened after everything kind of the dust cleared a little bit, the only part that has been made public is that Matthew Hutchins, who is Helena's husband, he has been made the executive producer on the film. So to me, that kind of, I feel like it's fairly reasonable to say that with his name on there, that the family is okay with the film releasing. And in fact, maybe they would like it for it to be released.
Right. I think like this is kind of complicated on so many different levels. You've seen critics online, people within the cinematography community say like this movie should not come out at all. What do you think those people are missing? Like, are there any sort of past precedents we can look to go, okay, let's just sort our way through this kind of tragedy, but also a movie that exists after this tragedy?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a complicated situation. Just to be clear, like this is a movie that's going to premiere at this festival next month, and a festival that the cinematographer Helena was very into because it's a festival celebrating cinematography.
Yeah.
In terms of and then like Rachel said, the executive producer credit, like that anything that benefits this movie then in terms of exposure and release, then obviously will benefit the family. But precedent wise, I mean, the only precedent we could look at is The Crow. Right, it's Brandon Lee's death on The Crow, which was again a shooting death born from some negligence, and it's interesting how the reactions are so different because nobody wanted to prevent the Crow from being released, right? And in fact, not only did like people want to see the film get out there, it became so entwined with Brandon Lee's legacy, and maybe that's because of the storyline, where the storyline is of a man who's coming back from death, of a man living in an afterlife, and so Brandon Lee, his whole story becomes entwined with The Crow, and you can't separate them. So The Crow becomes a cult classic because of the Brandon Lee story. And it's just the very opposite polar reaction to this is it's interesting, and maybe it's because you don't see Helena in camera, and you don't for some reason see that her work is not this is not really a tribute to his work. But I think that's something we should be criticizing and self-analytical about.
Rachel, I'm gonna give you the last word on this. Where do you stand on the movie getting a theatrical release, given everything that Rad just mentioned?
I mean, it sounds to me like the family would benefit greatly from this film being released. I think that, and to me, that's the most important thing. I think if the family came out and said, we don't want this to be released, we think that it goes against her legacy or it's disrespectful to her, then fine. I feel like everybody should kind of call it quits. But if they haven't said anything, and then also to note, like the settlement hasn't been paid out yet, and they haven't, they're not able to pay it out because they don't have the money to. So my guess is they're waiting for the film to be released, and whether it's through streaming or box office, then that's where Matthew and her son will get some financial benefit from it. So to me, it's really difficult to criticize the release of this movie if the family themselves haven't criticized it. I do understand and appreciate all of the other aspects around it, because you're right, it's a complicated situation. But in this situation, I think you go to the family. And if the family hasn't said no, or if the family appears to be able to benefit from it, then, I feel like that's what any mother, any wife would have wanted.
I think that's a thoughtful place to leave it. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being on the show today. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. Rachel Ho is a film critic at Exclaim Magazine. Cassie Cow is a comedian in Toronto. And Rad Simon Play is a freelance film critic whose work shows up at the Globe and Mail, CTV, and right here on Commotion. That is it for the podcast today. Look, I got to tell you, the Commotion was produced this week by Stuart Berman, Ty Callender, Jean Kim, and Jess Lowe. Caitlin King is our intern. Our digital producers this week have been Amelia Ekbal, Shuli Grossman-Gray, David Hustler, and Joe Musitz. Our directors this week are Danielle Grogan and Jane Vancouverden. Our engineers have been Emily Caravacio and Gabby Hagorilis. The senior producers are Danielle Grogan and John Perry. Anne McKeegan is our executive producer. My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. I'm going to be back on Monday. I will see you then.